Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Explore Gentle Dying. Learn spiritual skills for creating a beautiful death for yourself and your loved ones. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really delighted to be with you here exploring a very important topic that we've really talked about doing some programming around for quite a long time. We never quite found the right fit, and today we really found an incredible teacher who is going to help us explore this very important transition and how to approach it with a lot more wisdom, compassion, and care. Her name is Felicity Warner. She's the founder of Soul Midwives. She's an end-of-life doula and an educator and author. And I think you're going to really find her delightful and very wise about how we approach death, really as a kind of a spiritual transition and something that can bring illumination and healing rather than just fear. So, Felicity, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Stephen, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Beautiful. Well, I want to let everyone know up front, we're gonna dive in today and really, I think, get a paradigm shift in how to approach dying. And if you want to go further, we have a brand new program with Felicity that we're going to be talking about towards the end of the hour. It's called Gentle Dying. So more to come if you want to really take this next leap in your understanding. So Felicity, let's begin our journey here today with a little bit about your backstory and really what propelled you on the path to teaching and catalyzing deeper work around dying.
Well, yes, thank you, Stephen. It is quite a journey if I look backwards at to how it all began. I first experienced death in my own life very early on. It was the death of my grandmother, and I was very, very close to her. She brought me up after my parents divorced, and she was just a wonderful, kind, loving woman, everybody's idea of a grandmother. And we lived quietly together, but in a house with a lot of love. And when I was just coming up for 14, she developed cancer, and she kept it a secret. She didn't want anyone to know because she thought if she didn't talk about it, it might never catch up with her. And that's something a lot of people still do. And gradually she became more poorly, and gradually I did more to help her until a few weeks before she died, she went into hospital, and then all the news came out about how ill she was. But we'd shared a very special time in that last year together, and we talked about death on and off a little bit, so it wasn't such a shock when it started to really kind of rise up in front of us. But I went to see her the night before she died, and it was just a terrible experience. She was in a very clinical hospital room. There were bright lights above her bed. It was noisy. There was clashing equipment everywhere. And I just felt at that moment, if I could kidnap her and take her home to our lovely house with the cats and all the food of cooking going on in the background, homely things, that is what I would like to do. I wasn't able to do that for her, but I, as an adult, vowed that I would do everything I could do to make death a better experience for other people. So I've now been privileged to sit with hundreds of people at end of life and develop this gentle dying program, which enables people to go through that dying process feeling very loved, very supported, and having their wishes really expressed as to what's really important for them at end of life. So this has been a whole life's work, and it's evolved, as I say, since I was in my teenage years.
Well, thank you for sharing that origin story. And I wish you could have been able to kidnap your grandmother, because it really is, the medicalizing, and there's just sort of the intensity of just, it's such an important transition to go through, and to go through in a way that you're surrounded by love. Just, I mean, that's definitely the way I would like to go. So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the first of all, this how our culture is kind of set up around denial or fear around death, and like how that's important to sort of first address, I think, before you can even look at like how to go about gentle dying.
Absolutely. I think, within our culture, the taboo about death is actually even getting worse in some ways. And that's people are very frightened. They have been anxious about talking about death, especially their own deaths, until probably it's staring at them right in the face. And one of the things that I've really learned is that when we can talk about end of life, talk about what's important to us, talk about our wishes, um, share stories about the deaths of our loved ones and the amazing miracles that may have happened during that journey. If we open up these conversations and bring them into the heart of life, we begin to see an extraordinary sort of breaking down of barriers, and people then beginning to want to explore what death can be, what it can involve, and also the fact it can be a really inspiring and creative and very deeply profound journey. So, one of my passions is to get people talking about death in a non-frightening way. And then once we're able to start those conversations, we can start actually thinking about our own deaths, but also the deaths of our loved ones, and also the deaths of everybody within our own community. So this is very widespread, this work. It's not just to do with us ourselves. And when we can start having those conversations, then I start to share with people how we can make sitting with someone at the bedside a really a much better experience once medicine has reached its limits, because this is the time that we can come in with our gentle techniques and our loving support to ensure that the death is going to be a beautiful and graceful transition.
Let's talk a little bit about that transition point, because there's such a the medical system is so built around prolonging life and averting death, and so it can push things very far. So where what are our rights to be able to sort of decide when that's enough is enough, and to be able to kind of transition into more of the gentle dying process versus fighting for life?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think one of the most empowering things to share with people is that if they think ahead and think what's really important to them as they come up towards end of life. And I'm thinking of not just those really practical things that people often think about, such as their wills and their financial affairs. All of those things are fairly mainstream. But the things that I really try to engage people in thinking about are the things that make them feel less anxious, less fearful when they're not feeling well, when they're in pain, when they've got big problems to solve. And so part of the work that I'll be sharing in the course is actually realizing what a good death can look like for yourself and for others, because there are 6 billion people in the world who will all, as sure will be facing end of life at some stage. And everybody's idea about what is a good death for them will be different and uniquely personal to them as well. So it's really important that people understand that they do have choices in how they at least approach their end of life. So although we live in a very medicalized world where a clinical death is really usually far from what we really want for ourselves and our loved ones, if we can make some decisions early on and really revision death and dying in our own minds, in our own hearts, in our own souls, then we can really do some powerful work long before the end of life actually comes to us.
Hmm. So is it vital that people actually paint the picture, like write out what does the good death looks and, you know, a lot of the choice points. So you're actually creating more of like a roadmap for the process?
Yes, absolutely. And this is something I'll really be working with at the beginning of the course, because so many people assume that they just have no choice and um, have no ability to decide what it is they actually want. And also people don't really know what they want. So I'm going to open up that conversation to really drive down to see what's important to you. So for me, it would be being at home and having my cat on the end of the bed with me,
Hmm.
hearing noises going around downstairs, my household. I'd like to know my grandchildren are running around. I'd like champagne on ice to be available for all my friends that come and visit me. You know, there are so many things that I know because I've seen people dying, clever things that they've organized that have then been easy for their relatives to kind of have on hand. But sometimes we need to hear the ideas of others to get that creative vision that we need to then revision our own end of life.
I love the specificity of the champagne on ice. What are some other things that you've found that might be a little bit surprising that actually really are meaningful as part of somebody's good death?
Oh, I've had all sorts of amazing things. I mean, we've had amazing music playing, we've had jazz playing, so it's like a party atmosphere. We've had rooms set up so that all members of the family can come and actually do something if they're not sitting directly at the bedside. So jigsaw puzzles for the children in the corner, um, their tablets with games on, all sorts of ideas that people just want their passing to be as uniquely their own as possible. I've even once had a quartet of musicians in right at end of life playing favorite music to a musician who was dying. So this is it, Stephen. You know, the sky is the limit. Once you've really thought about what you would like, then we have the chance to organize that if we work on this early on.
Hmm.
Makes all the difference.
Is it important, do you find, to have people not just do their own self-reflection, but really be inclusive with other family and loved ones around that design so that it's sort of like a little more of a collaborative process?
It can be, although again, that's uniquely personal. It depends on families and dynamics and friendships, whatever. I do really try and encourage people to have those conversations around their supper table, you know, when they're or their breakfast table, you know, to start that idea of, well, what would be important to me? What would I really like to have happen? And then get the conversations going, write it down, have it as a flexible plan. And then I always say, if you can, put this on your fridge, because then you've got it there in the middle of your kitchen. People can come up and read it as they get their milk out for their cup of tea or whatever. And you're beginning what can be quite a difficult conversation to have with your nearest and dearest, unless you've done a little bit of ice breaking like this. So again, I'm going to be talking about how we communicate some of those delicate ideas around our own death, because so
Hmm.
many people are really anxious about sharing that sort of detail with their loved ones. But I'm going to show how we can make that a lot easier.
Hmm. It sounds really wise to do that, because I mean you have to get past your own fear of your own death to do it,
So,
and then to like everybody else's issues around your own death or their, you know, if you're working with somebody else. So how do you, so it sounds like just being very gentle about introducing the topics and kind of spacing things out is one of the key principles.
yeah, absolutely. And talking, you know, I love that you use that word gentle, because that is such, it is such a powerful word when we're talking about end of life and about really supporting people towards the end of life. And so those conversations could be very difficult, but if we use some humor, if we use some storytelling, if we look back over our own families and deaths that have occurred and we remember some of the things that happened along the way, we can really create a narrative that is interesting and informative and lively and empowering for people. And that is what really helps to make or helps to dissolve some of the fears around talking about death. So it's really important to have these conversations.
Mm, I love that. Well, I'd love for any reflection that's useful just in terms of understanding the actual dying process itself that helps to mitigate some of those fears. And what there's sort of, is there a kind of a framework that helps people understand like how they're going to be actually transitioning so that that helps to mitigate some of the fears?
Yeah, that there really is. Now, again, this is a framework that has existed in some of the ancient wisdom cultures. And in fact, over the course, I'm going to be drawing on some of those really important wisdom cultures and indigenous cultures for some of their profound traditional teachings and weaving them in to how we work with gentle dying. But yes, there is an actual process in dying that not many people really understand. And yet once you understand it and you know what the steps are like along the journey, you see dying in a completely different way and it all makes so much sense. It's something that I will break down into 4 stages and teach exactly how people are, not only physically, because those are the things that we can see, but I'll be talking about the emotional aspects and those stages of dying, and also, really importantly, the psycho-spiritual stages that we go through. And again, this usually brings out a lot of kind of oh wow moments when people hear these, because they're able to relate them back to things they noticed with loved ones who may have died. And so suddenly things are making sense and people are understanding what has been going on. And once we understand this process and we have this roadmap, if you like, we're then really equipped to know what very gentle techniques we can use at the bedside. And that's going to be another part of the teaching in this course, are the very simple techniques that we can use to sit and help anybody who's at end of life, to help alleviate fear, to help alleviate pain, anxiety, and so on. And these are things that I will teach in some depth as well.
Hmm. Can you give an example of one of those that might be a little bit surprising to folks?
Yeah, well, I'd like to actually, if I could just share a couple, that would be really good.
Great. Great.
One technique that we work on early on, or I work on early on when I'm working with someone, maybe from point of diagnosis, when they know that life isn't going to be as long as they may have hoped it would be, we'll work on a creative visualization. And this will be a visualization of going into quiet and peaceful and gentle and very loving space. We'll know how it looks, we'll know how it feels, we'll know how it sounds, we'll know how it smells, we'll create the whole story around it. And this will be a wonderful way of soothing and calming somebody down if they are feeling really anxious at some stage. But one of the other benefits about creating this sort of visualization, and I will be sharing exactly how we do this, is that when we're vigiling somebody right at the end of life, one thing we need to remember is that hearing is the last sense to go.
Hmm.
So sometimes when we're sitting with someone who is maybe in their final hours and they're not talking anymore, they're just cocooning inside themselves, we know that they can still hear us. So one of the techniques I'll be sharing is that we can use this same creative visualization. It'll be familiar to them. They will know it in their minds. They'll know what it looks like and feels like. But we can use that visualization to actually walk them right through the end of life. And it's very powerful when you're able to do that. You can feel somebody dropping into the flow of that as they are literally breathing their final breaths. And you can feel them relax and surrender into the process.
Hmm.
So this is a really powerful skill that all of us can learn. And we can use it for ourselves, but we can use it also for our loved ones or for anyone we know
Hmm.
who would really benefit from having that in those very final
Hmm.
hours.
I love that. So you're really kind of establishing those pathways and familiarities so that you can really release
Yes.
into those at the moment. Do
Yeah,
you also focus on things that are post death? Because I know a lot of lineages, like the Tibetans, will spend multiple days, helping guide the soul through the bardos, and I'm not
they
sure.
do.
I don't have direct experience myself, but I know that there's a lot of that in traditional cultures and a lot of Eastern cultures.
There is. And so in our modern death midwifery, soul midwifery work, we pay a lot of attention to that after death time. Because again, drawing on the ancient wisdom, it is said by many cultures that after death, it takes a little while for the spirit and the soul to leave the physical body. And during that time, the the person who has transitioned is super sensitive to hearing and knowing what is going on around them. So what we do is to hold space, to maybe light a candle, to speak to them again very gently and very reassuringly, um, and telling them that that all is well, that they are loved, that it's safe to go to the light, that that everything is okay. And we really look after all our people who have transitioned for at least around 3 days after death, to really ensure that their spiritual well-being as they cross what we call the sacred threshold, until all that happens just beautifully. So again, I'll be teaching that in, I think it's the final module, we'll be covering that.
Do you find it's valuable to also work on skills of or capacities communicating with the soul on the other side in that process? So it's sort of so you're in a way more psychic communication, or is that sort of not as
Yes, we do that as well. So I always feel that the work that I do as a soul midwife, it covers a very wide spectrum. So
Mhm.
Stephen, I could be working with someone from the day they are diagnosed. And so then that's when we would be talking about their choices, what's important to them at end of life. And then as they become less well, I'll be working with these therapeutic skills as they go through those stages that I was talking about. And then we'll be looking at the vigiling in those final hours to make sure that's graceful and love filled and peaceful. And then after that, there is almost a portal that opens up where we can be then um, holding space and guiding the soul towards the light in the next phase of transition. So this is such a wide spectrum that I'll be teaching and showing people how to work with. And as I was saying earlier, this really applies. It's knowledge that we all need, not only for ourselves. So I will be teaching you how to experience your own good death, but also, I think really importantly, how to transport those skills and techniques into working in supporting our loved ones, or maybe it's even our colleagues at work. These skills are really easy to learn, and we can use them in so many different situations.
Beautiful. Well, I'm curious to learn a little bit more about these different traditional cultures, and maybe it would be interesting to share one cultural understanding about working with the dyeing process that you found really relevant or important, and just kind of give a taste of some of what you're going to be teaching in the course.
Yes, well, I think for me, the exploration of this happened first when I was volunteering at a hospice. And I was often sitting at the bedside of people who maybe had no relatives who were able to come and visit. So I spend many, many hours sitting at the bedside and noticing extraordinary things that would happen, such as people almost flitting in and out of their body, in and out of consciousness. And I became very attuned to people's energy fields as they were in the dying process. I did a lot of field work, of research, of looking at other medical paradigms and spiritual paradigms to see if they could shed any light on that. And in fact, it was Tibetan Buddhism that really came up and really showed me that they understood dying as a very precise art. And from that, I began to develop that process I was talking about, the stages of dying. And they have been writing and talking and teaching about that for absolute centuries and centuries. It's a very old shamanic view of the dying process, but with blending it into the Western model, we've been able to bring this bang up to date. So everything that they talk about and explore are tools and techniques that we can bring in to this process of dying. And one thing I especially love is they relate all this to the dissolution of the elements from the body, and they talk about the fire element leaving the body, and how suddenly that is the time when people often see quite clairvoyant things in their death journey. So they may see relatives standing at the bottom of the bed, people who've already transitioned. And it's that sort of thing that I will be weaving into the course as well.
Mm. Really cool. Very exciting. So I know you wanted to lead us into a process to work with our own relationship with death. And why don't we do that now?
That would be lovely, Stephen. Thank you. I I really would like to share this practice with you. It's just looking as a very simple little meditation and story about befriending death, seeing death as a friend. So I invite you to join me now in this. Make yourself soft and comfortable and step out of your busy mind for a few moments. Let go of your worries and take a few deep and gentle breaths. If it feels okay, close your eyes or go into a nice sleepy gaze. And now, join me on a little journey down a winding path into a forest. Deeper and deeper you go. The woods are hushed, and the only sounds are the rustle of the leaves and a distant drumming of a woodpecker. The path leads deeper into the thicket, into a hollow circled with green leaves and branches. And then you see her, seated on a moss-covered log, bathed in dappled sunlight, is a woman of ethereal beauty. Her hair is the color of moonlight. It cascades down her back, and her loving and kind eyes hold the warmth of 1,000 summer suns. Your fear at being so far from home and in a dark and lonely forest melts away and is replaced by peace and calm. Hello, dear one, she says, her voice like wind chimes. You seem lost. You find yourself nodding, surprised with the ease at which you speak. I am. I've been wandering for what feels like forever. She smiles, a gentle crease forming at the corner of her eyes. Sometimes getting lost is the only way to find what you truly seek. You sit beside her. Who are you? She smiles. I am what you have always feared. But don't be frightened. She takes your hand, and I am also what you have always longed for. Peace, solace, and a loving welcome at the end of your earthly journey. You are death, surely not? She laughs, a name whispered with dread, yet inevitable for all. But I am not the grim reaper of your nightmares. I am the gentle hand that wraps a soft cloak around you, cocoons you with love, and guides you home. You feel warmth spreading through you. What happens now, you ask her? You return to the source of all love, the place where your loved ones await. It is not an ending, but a homecoming. You remember your grandmother's hugs, your father's laugh, the soft touch of your mother's hands. The forest floor shimmers. The air is alive with 1,000 unseen presences. And then you do see them, your loved ones, their faces etched with love and longing for the sight of your face. They are waiting for you, she whispers. There is no fear, just joy, a deep peace, a homecoming. And then you know that death is nothing to fear. She is love. She is the bridge, the gentle guide, leading you home. One day when you cross that bridge, you will know that this is not an ending. As she leaves, she hands you a gift. Take a moment now to unwrap it and see what's inside. It might be a message. It might be something that you need to know about the precious gifts of life and death. It might be a symbol. It might be an object. But whatever it is, take it into your heart as a gift from one side of the sacred threshold to the other. You will each receive something different. And when you are ready, open your eyes and give thanks and come back to the present gently, gently, gently.
Beautiful. You have such a lovely quality in your voice to really invite us into that process. I'm wondering if you want to share what should we do with the symbol message that we received.
Well, I know that when we sit very quietly and greet death as a friend, there will always be a gift that is given to us. So there may be something that you just haven't thought of before, or maybe a loved one will come into your mind and you will intuit some message that you're given to show you that the death is not what we're all told it is. So these gifts will come to us from just stepping out of our comfort zone and greeting death as a friend. And I would urge everyone to try doing that, because it opens up infinite possibilities to us as well.
Beautiful. Well, I'd love for you to thread together a story or two of how somebody might have made this pivot to really committing to gentle dying and the kind of process that they designed, and then the experiences that were able to open up with them and their family, just as some examples of what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I've sat with so many hundreds of people now at end of life, and the dying have really been my teachers. You know, they have taught me what it is to journey into that great adventure. And so I I just think it's so important that we can learn as much as we can about our own feelings about death, that we can then explore in a really safe way, and empower ourselves in knowing what to expect. How we can also look at what we leave behind as our own memories to those that we leave behind. So we'll be looking at a whole session about what we leave behind in terms of memories. And then we'll be really understanding how to sit and soothe people and make death a really beautiful, beautiful transition. So we'll be covering that whole transitional journey really in the 7-week course.
Beautiful. Just we still have a maybe we'll excerpt this. So I want to make sure we spend enough time giving them inspiration now, and then we'll talk for the last 15 minutes or so about the course at this point.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, as I said, I feel curious to sort of have an example or two. Just I thought your example of like champagne on ice is sort of inspiring. So like inspire us with some stories of possibility that you've seen enacted.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I've so many, Stephen. It's knowing where to even begin, because once people do begin to use their imaginations, then beautiful things begin to happen. So there was one young woman I worked with. She had a form of cancer that had taken her very quickly from being well to being really not well, and she was a musician, she was a singer, and I was called in to see her in the last 10 days of her life. And I really connected with her very deeply. We got to know each other very, very fast. She told me what her fears were, what her hopes were. She talked about her life, how the things she'd done. But music was such an important part to her that she needed to really surround herself with music in order to transition beautifully as well. So each day I would go and visit, I would take my singing bowl with me, and I would sit at her bedside and I would tone the bowl over the bed. And she found that very, very relaxing, and she would drop into a very calm, meditative state. But one day she asked if some of her friends could come and visit her. And what we decided to do was to actually stand around her bedside and tone our voices to her. This was the most extraordinary thing, and the hospice staff had never seen anything like it. But there were 6 of us, and we all just stood around the bed and we toned, and the vibrations of the sound of the toning was so profound, so deep. We felt her go into a very deep space, and it was as if the sound created a vortex of energy, like a portal. And while we toned, she did actually transition, and it was the most peaceful and graceful transition that you have ever seen. It was almost as if she just rose out of her body and she just sailed off through that tunnel of sound that we'd created. So that is one beautiful death that I will never forget for
Mm.
all my days. And another young woman as well, I was thinking about only the other day, who loved the sea. She was crazy about swimming and swam every single day. And she had wanted to die out on the beach, but that wasn't able to be organized because she was attached to so many machines and drips and drugs. But all her friends were invited to bring things into her bedroom to make her dying room a beautiful space to live in, or to die in. And we brought in shells and pieces of seaweed and wood from the beach, and we played the sound of the sea, which was very much echoing her breath as well. So she really synchronized her breath to the sound of the waves that we were able to play to her. And again, she transitioned very beautifully, as if the tide was just coming in and then finally going out for the last time. So again, this is about creating a beautiful space for people in which to transition in.
Beautiful stories. Those really bring it alive. And I love also the use of kind of chanting. And we teach sound healing programs at Shift, and realizing, oh, it's like sound healing, especially if hearing is the last thing to go. What a powerful addition to the dying process that different kinds of sound healing can be.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And we also use some very special sacred oils in our therapeutic work at the bedside. So these are ancient oils which have been used for thousands of years to help the dying transition. And these are oils you'll be familiar with, such as sandalwood and myrrh, but also rose and spikenard. And there's a whole repertoire of these amazing oils that work on a vibrational level, to again help people transition very peacefully. So I'm going to really be talking about which oils to use, what emotional aspects of dying they can work with, and also how to apply them. So and how to give somebody a very sacred anointing as well. So
Mm.
this will be one of the rituals and practices that we use in the dying time.
I love that. Well, let's talk more explicitly about some of the dimensions of this upcoming course, which I know is going to be such a blessing for whoever chooses to join you. So it's called it's called Gentle Dying, Master Spiritual Skills and Techniques for Creating Beautiful End-of-Life Transitions. You can see the program laid out in detail at gentledyingcourse.com, gentledyingcourse.com. It's gonna be a 7-week journey, and the module is really going to give you the foundational teachings to really make a gentle dying process part of your journey, part of the loved ones, and those that are in your extended community as well. So it really gives you a level of sophistication, a paradigm shift around how to approach this, and specific inspirational, structure, processes and structures that allow you to really do that in a way that's very unique to you. So Felicity, I'd love for you to share a little bit about the bigger purpose of taking this journey for someone, and then I'll read out the module titles, and you can give a preview of what's coming in each.
Okay. Well, I suppose if I'm rounding this whole the whole aim of the course is that without I think it sorry, can I just start again?
Start again,
Without,
yes.
okay, yes. Um, so I suppose in laying out the entire aim of the course without any exaggeration at all, I would say that everybody on the planet needs to learn these skills, because all of us, we're all born and we all die. And so what I'll be teaching over the 7 weeks really are life skills that are so important for helping people to die well. And I will really go into some detail with this over the 7 modules.
So module 1 is called Embrace Your Transition to Experience Death as a Journey of Grace and Fulfillment.
Yes, so in this module, I'm going to really be looking at what death feels like for you, how to approach it, how to think about it, how to revision exactly what your feelings are about it, and to sit with it very comfortably in your life in order to then really make those plans for the future.
Hmm. Module 2, craft your peaceful, gentle death comfort plan to ease your end of life worries.
Now, this is all about working out what is exactly perfect for you when you are really not feeling well, when you're feeling anxious. It's knowing and driving in really to the precise things. Do you like being touched? Do you like music? Do you like scented oils? Do you like company? Do you like to have the radio on next to you? Would you like flowers in your room? Do you want candles by your bedside? This is really, really working out a bit like a birthing plan, but this is your special end of life wish plan that you will then share with others.
Module 3, create your inner healing sanctuary to embrace your death with energy and vision.
Yes. So when we're going through hard times, and dying is a laboring process, there will be difficult moments when we need to go within and to create a sanctuary deep within ourselves, where we can go and rest and replenish and just soothe ourselves. So I'm going to really be teaching you how to create that inner soul sanctuary for those really important times.
Module 4, ensure you are remembered after death by leaving a legacy of love.
Yes, so many people fear that after death they won't be remembered, that they'll be forgotten. So this module is really experiential. It's about looking at ways that we can really keep our memories alive. These are really some amazing ideas of leaving living legacies for people, leaving hand casts of our hands, writing recipe books, collecting family stories, recording our voice. I'm going to share lots of different techniques for leaving behind these really precious memories.
Module 5, navigate the process of dying with the elements, to experience comfort, connection, and a deep sense of peace.
Yes, so this is going to be a really deep module looking at those stages in the dying process, the physical stages, the emotional, the psychospiritual stages, how we feel, how we react, the dreams we have, the feelings we have, everything, so that we can really have a really good map and understand what is happening to us and to others as they go along these stages. Really, really vital for helping people along this process.
Module 6, revive sacred vigils to help nurture spiritual passage to the next realm.
Ah, well, vigiling is as old as man himself, yet it's become something of a dying art. If I could just take you back to the old days, where we would be dying in front of a log fire with our family around us. Um, but I'm going to be teaching you skills that link in with that aspect of giving deep love and care and attention. So this will be a whole session on how to sit with the dying and how to keep them warm and safe through that journey and keep them feeling love-filled.
Module 7, the final module, become a soul midwife to help shepherd those crossing the sacred threshold.
So this is a really deep and sacred piece of work that we'll be looking at how we work with the enormous expansion of consciousness that comes at end of life, how we hold space for that, how we watch the unbinding take place of spirit and soul, which is this final process as somebody leaves their physical body, how to understand that, how to work with that, and then how to return back to ourselves once we have been in that threshold energy. So there are lots of really important sacred skills to learn about around this very special extra bit at end of life.
Well, it's clear just how much wisdom, heart, and soul you've poured into the development of gentle dying as a path and practice, and really distilling that into this course is a great service to us all. So we're really grateful for this. Felicity is, again, course is laid out in detail at gentledyingcourse.com. So in addition to the 7 modules that we just discussed, which are live, you're going to get recordings of every session, both video and audio. It's particularly helpful to go back and for guided visualizations and processes to be able to access them whenever you want. You also get word for word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight, weekly exercises for home, as well as a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience and really create a matrix of community support around the world for your own design of the gentle dying process with you or loved ones or community. And on the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses as well, designed to enhance your journey. There's a PDF guide from Felicity called 20 Empowering Positive Affirmations to help you embrace a beautiful death. There's also another guide called Whispers of Comfort, tips for accompanying a loved one on their final journey. That sounds particularly interesting. Felicity, you want to share a little bit more about that PDF?
Yes, I would. I want to really give some really practical tools here about how to sit at the bedside and make a really big difference, but with simple ideas. So we're going to be looking at simple things like moistening somebody's lips, how to do that, how to check that they're comfortable lying down in bed, how to choose and sort out the lighting for them in the room, music for them, scents around them, how to involve all their senses as well in this final journey. So it's a really practical set of tools that can just be used in whatever setting the person is dying in, whether it's in their home or in a hospital or a care home. You would be able to just go and walk in with this list of ideas and make an enormous difference to someone.
Hmm. That's a great extra bonus. And another one is the full Gentle Dying ebook from Felicity. This is the signature work around this and helps to distill out some of the key principles. And there's a special bonus that you get if you sign up right away by midnight Pacific time, and that is called Letting Go, the Energy Secrets of Gentle Dying. This is a dialogue between Felicity and a new shift faculty member who we really love, Prune Harris. And let's, Felicity, share a little bit about what you and Prune were discussing in that Letting Go, the Energy Secrets of Gentle Dying.
Yes, well, a lot of my therapeutic work as a soul midwife is based on energy work and vibrational medicine. And so I was so delighted to be able to link up and have a conversation with my good friend Prune Harris, looking at the energetic aspects of what really happens as we die and when we die. So we had a really lively conversation about things that we've seen, things that we've experienced in that dying time, and also having some reflections on how the so-called masters have died themselves. You know, we've all heard these stories of Zen masters being able to prophesy the time of death and then simply and effortlessly leave their bodies. And we've had a really interesting conversation about that, which I think you'll really enjoy and find really useful as well.
Well, that's a great extra reason to sign up right away. The two of you in dialogue on the energy secrets of gentle dying is really going to be quite a blessing to have. So we have the whole program laid out in detail again at gentledyingcourse.com. And I encourage you to go and read through it, read through some of the testimonials as well when you get off this call, and just really tune in about this next step and realize how important the dying process is to a well-lived life, and being able to really gain skills and capacities and a paradigm shift and reduce fear. It's a great blessing for yourself and for those that you care about. So we've kept these beautiful program very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you save 10% when you pay in full with 1 payment of $349. The course is going to begin on April 2nd and run Tuesdays at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern, which is also a really great time for those in England and Europe. And even if you can't make those live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings and the transcripts and the community as well. And as I mentioned, there's great testimonials also from other shift faculty members like Dr. William Bloom, who's really beloved. And he says, Felicity is a wonderful, warm, wise, and inspiring teacher, radiates compassionate care and profoundly sensitive understanding how to help heal people's fears and vulnerabilities. So you're really in wonderful hands, and you're going to have a deep shift in healing around the whole dying process if you choose to go further. So again, all the details are at gentledyingcourse.com. So Felicity, what a beautiful hour with you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Anything that still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering joining you in the Gentle Dying program?
Well, thank you so much, Stephen. I've enjoyed it very much. I would just like to say really that a beautiful death is a really, really powerful thing. And we can all help each other towards a beautiful death. It's not only good for the dying person, but it's also very healing as well for their family and for their friends, but also the whole wider community. So a good death sends out ripples that affect all of us. We all benefit from a good death. So I just hope in doing my course, I will help you to achieve a good death, either for yourselves or your loved ones. And if it's only for one person you work with, that's worthwhile. But if you do it for other people as well, you are really beginning to help heal the planet of the fears around death and dying. And that's really important stuff. So I do hope you'll join me.
Hmm. Well, thank you, Felicity, for really committing yourself to this path to, in honor of your grandmother, to sort of really create a paradigm shift around dying and help so many people have a much more beautiful transition process. So thank you for your wisdom and your dedication, and thank you all for joining us. And if you'd like to go further, you can do so at gentledyingcourse.com, and it's going to start on April 2nd. And if you sign up right away, you'll get the Letting Go Energy Secrets of Gentle Dying with Felicity and Prune. So hope to see you there. Many blessings. Thank you so much.